Commissioners meeting to order. First item is call the order, which I just did. Roll call the member second.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
And Commissioner Flacco?
Present.
Commissioner Capitan, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're looking for approve the minutes from the previous meeting and the meeting from 4 weeks ago, March 5 and 17. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Flacco.
Discussion? Hearing none. Is that a roll call, Taylor?
Voice.
Voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, before I ask for a motion to approve the order of the agenda, item J under the consent agenda will be inserted right after item 8. Commissioner Breitling has asked for that to be pulled off the agenda. And then item 4 will be tabled to a future date in May, as I understand it. Are there any other corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd accept a motion likewise.
Move to. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling? And Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Next, would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Next, public comment. Anyone anxious to come and speak on any topic here this afternoon, in person or online? Hearing none, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Item 1, Innovate 28, update and funding request. Shannon Full and Joe Raso.
Will come up anxious and eager to present, so.
Want to kick us off?
Sure, good afternoon, members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you today to talk about Innovate 28. As a reminder to all the commissioners, this is the public-private partnership 4-year regional growth development plan with a partnership between the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce. We have had great success in kicking off. This is about 18 months in the works. Created the plan jointly, co-created it with leaders, vetted that with about 75 leaders throughout the community, and thus have moved forward. So we're here today on 2 things that you had requested from us. One is to provide for you an update on those private sector companies that have invested in the initiative for us to then finish out our match of the 2005 year. 2025 year, with us really focusing on a max cap of 2.5 million as that was approved previously in 2024. And so we're here to do that as well as provide insight into the metrics and the dashboard that all of you were very interested in making sure that we created a set of KPIs, key performance indicators that would allow us to track the success and the outcomes of the work that we're doing.
So, as it relates to the metrics, you received in your packets a document that outlines really 2 stages of metrics. The first, what we would call like revenue generating metrics. I think it's kind of the WIFM for the county. What is the activities that are happening in partnership between our 2 organizations and others in the region to drive increased values, property values, sales tax values, our work with primary sector companies and how that allows for indirect and induced investments throughout the regional economy. We're happy to report that we reached out to both city and county staff to get a sense of are these top line metrics the types of things that you typically track and look at. We got some feedback that yes, they were. And it's really important to report these out as this data comes in. One of our great partners that we've had who's done a lot of work in data analysis in this marketplace is Goldmark and Andy Westby and his team. They've agreed to work with us to provide quarterly updates on all the information that they track on sales and permits and values. So our hope is that as we move past this first 3 months and deeper into this campaign, that we'll be able to provide those quarterly updates to all of you. One thing we have learned is the likelihood of providing them a week after a quarter is challenging. It's probably going to take closer to the end of the month following every quarter, and we're going to see how that works out. We're going to be putting this information on a website that we're developing right now, which will be the Innovate 28 website. So as we're updating our activities, that can be obviously put there and marketed and shared with our investors, but also coming to all of you quarterly and having that conversation. The second set of metrics is really tied to what we call our KPIs. These are the things that we're working on internally as a staff, whether it's project development, workforce development, public policy. Obviously, those are the three big areas of this initiative. We've set goals both over the 4 years, but we've set goals during each year that we're tracking. You can see there are some numbers that are reported already in the first few months, and we'll keep those up to date and obviously shared with you and with all of our investors. The second piece of this is, as Shannon mentioned, the investments of the private industry, knowing the leadership that you all played in putting sort of a marker out there to raise additional funds and get the private market to support that, and then hopefully get the match that you've already started with us, which is $1.2 million earlier in the year. So in your packets, there's a list of probably about 125 different private organizations who are leaning into this initiative with us. And so we put that in front of you and would ask for your consideration on matching that total, of which you've already done quite a bit. And we open up for questions unless there's some other things you might have, Shannon.
Yeah, I think the piece that we're seeing is, as we say, there continues to be private sector investment that will continue to come in. We just know that at some point we have to draw a line in the sand, realize the commitment to the county for 2025, and then revisit that in future years. So this is reflective of those investments from the very top end of $200,000 a year down to the smaller end of $250 a year. So.
Well, first, congratulations, if I may start the discussion. I was tracking 20 months, not 18 months.
Probably was 20 months. You're probably right.
21 months when the county commission in July of 23 incented by providing up to half of the matching money for a feasibility study or a fund drive, if you will, knowing that was kind of the catalyst to start encouraging the EDC and the chamber to come together with a collaborative plan. A lot of great work's been done. By my math, rounding up and down a little bit, but if you look at the 2024 expenditures that the county had provided the EDC was $800,000. And then the $800,000 of private money in the EDC, that would be a $1.6 million, give or take, annual budget, or about $6.4 million over 4 years. What we're talking about here today with your efforts in the private sector and with the county and the cities of Fargo and West Fargo, we're talking a campaign over 4 years of about $15 million. So that's a net increase of $11 million to the effort to be strategic, be collaborative, and make a difference. Those of us who made the decisions in July of 23 never believed or thought that we'd be faced with property tax caps moving forward, which has will have a significant impact on the county funding. But be that as it may, return on investment grows the tax base, and we get new valuation every year, which is part of the overall plan that the state legislature is going to do to us. So return on investment is going to even be more of a priority moving forward than maybe the lofty goals that we had when we started this. So again, I really appreciate all the hard work. I know this wasn't easy at certain junctures, but I do believe it's the right thing to do for our communities and region. And this is just the start. I don't know if you probably declared this started first of the year, but I think I'm declaring today is the official start because of our final action. And it would be, our interest that we would continue to do the same amount for the next 3 years on top of this year. So, and then the whole process would start over again. What are the needs of the community? And I'm certain that if you made the request for redoing this and that some assistance financially to start hiring another consultant for another 4-year campaign, I hope the county would consider that when it comes forward. So just some comments as we watched what's happened and been participating in various meetings and a lot of meetings. And so again, congratulations to each of you. As I've noted in my communications back and forth, recognizing that our motion originally last year also was going to capture the city of Fargo and West Fargo.
Right.
So as we look at the math of the 1906-900 in private sector matches, backing out that 125,000, that's $1,781,900. Or net gets you the same number with a match, but our additional amount would be $581,900. So that would be what I would ask for a motion on, so that we set this out at with that aim. And if the cities of Fargo and West Fargo next year decide that they're not going to provide funding to this, then we would reconsider doing the dollar for dollar next year. But I've been consistent on that amount, that we're not going to double dip public sector dollars in Cass County. Commissioner Flacco?
I have maybe 3 questions in order, easiest to hardest. So the pledges, and I appreciate the listing that you provided. Those are pledges for each year for 5 years. Am I understanding that right? 4 years? Okay.
And they're also, Commissioner, there are many private sector individuals, much like the county, that want the report through the investor briefings that we're giving, and we'll make that. They've signed a multi-year pledge, but it is reviewable annually in case of any changes.
And then just a comment, as the chair said earlier, we, and is a big we, have some challenges ahead, foreseeing a cap being placed on property tax, which is largely our biggest source of income, because the fees that we charge for, whether it's a wedding at $30 or other things, really are insignificant. So that's something we're going to have to just kind of see as we go forward in terms of what can we do with this and other things. I mean, it's just normal. And so the question I get sometimes from the public, and this is the hardest question I have, I think, is, when you look at your reportable data, what do you tell them about baselining it over organic growth if you weren't here?
Right.
Because I know you get that, but I always think it's interesting to kind of help me better understand that if there was this void. I mean, clearly some of these wouldn't even happen, but in terms of some of the outcomes, what do you tell people?
Well, a few things. One, when we did this analysis and put this program together, we actually looked at historical numbers as it related to the current status of our efforts, meaning the investments that were being made. And when we set the workforce goal, we set it at a level 30% above where we had been traditionally. Same thing with project activity. So we're not coming in where it's not based on, if we didn't have funding, we already figured that in, what that previous baseline funding was. All of the projects that we're working on and reporting out, one of the key criteria is that the company themselves you should be able to call any one of them and ask about the importance of the working with our organizations, whether it was public policy or otherwise, to allow them or to have them make the decision to do those investments here versus another location. So it's not just us speaking to that, it's actually, the business themselves who's deciding between here and Omaha or Tulsa or some other location. And I don't know if that answers your question enough.
But if I may have one more follow-up that kind of triggered me, and this is because of the people you talk to, clearly COVID just tipped a lot of things over. Are we kind of back to normal where where we can't, where we can't blame COVID or say this, increase afterward is a post-COVID upturn? During the COVID, we certainly had a lot of challenges that really turned things down. Are we kind of just past that now, largely, or?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of pieces to this. COVID has presented different challenges now as we've come out of COVID, right? So when we talk about workforce, we would have never guessed that our challenge with workforce now is to actually create a community and environment that people want to live in, so that you can keep them here, because now with virtual, a lot of online companies being able to work, you're able to work remotely. That adds a challenge to us, that the people don't have to be here in our community. So that community development aspect is another different shift. So we've had a lot of, that's just one example, but a lot of shifting pieces of this. When we talk about the public policy side of things, we also know we've got some significant challenges in public policy going forward now with the addition of term limits, with a decline in people wanting to run for office. And so when this probably plays into your earlier question as well, the justification for investment in this is that if we do nothing, then are we going to be in a worse position where we're going to have to be reactive instead of being proactive and trying to really mirror where some of our competition is. And when you look at investments in other areas like Sioux Falls, who does this work and has for a long time, at a $11.7 million a year campaigner investment revenue for this, that's the part that we're looking at to make sure that we're able to be competitive.
If I could add for Commissioner Flacco, just as hard as 22 and 23 were, most of the projections, and we're going to hold an event here in June, you'll all get invitations to it. The workforce numbers, because of national demographic and some social issues, are projecting very, very significant workforce challenges nationally and for our region. And so the way I'd answer your question is I think things are going to continue to be a challenge because of the workforce challenge that we're faced with. So addressing that is something that this relationship is helping to put in front of people and get the right information and data to make some decisions on this.
Continue.
I got prompted with another question. So are 5 remote hires, are they still a win if they don't live in, I don't know the answer. That's what I'm asking, I guess. So like if you have a company that is 25 people, they hire 5 more, but they're remote, is that still a win? It seems like it to me, but it's not a big win as if they're in the community.
That's correct. It's like higher education going from 12 to 15,000, but all 3,000 of those are online.
Yeah.
Somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? Is it helpful? Yes. Is it as helpful as if they were right here? No. But that's the reality of how the economics are working. Do we help companies find workers that might not be here, but they're headquartered here? We do. Why? Because the corporate headquarters are here, and you want those dollars to come back and the profitability to come back to the region. So it's also recognizing these changing workforce environments and economic environments that we're all going to be dealing with. And can I make one quick comment back to the chair? I just want, when you were talking about the dollar amounts, that 1.9 million is all private sector.
I realize that, but we're
Yeah,
going to
there wasn't any
No,
cities.
I've looked at the list, but as I communicated over a number of times, we're going to use the city and 2 cities' public money as well as match. So we're not going to match and then provide another 125,000, which you asked for and was approved for this budget. Been very clear on that through this journey. So that's just reflecting that 125,000 that's in the EDC budget that was approved by Fargo and West Fargo.
Right.
So
But isn't part of this.
it is when we back out our dollar for dollar match.
So you're including the dollar from match being, you would take the counties and the cities together, and that would match the private sector.
No, we take the counties and reduce the 125,000 for our match. using the city of Fargo and West Fargo for that equivalent to get to your match. I've been very clear on that all the way along.
Same.
Yeah,
Not following.
yeah, I wasn't following that either, Chairman. Are you
So
saying that the
1.1
125,000 of the
You've
cities?
raised,
Yes.
1 million, according to last Friday's report, $1,906,900. Okay,
Private funds,
So-
all private.
the county will not do a dollar for dollar match on that when the cities of Fargo and West Fargo have already put 125 in. So our dollar for dollar match is reduced by the 125 to get you to the same place with public money.
Okay.
Understood. Got it.
Other questions? I just had a comment on the new normal and COVID. Anybody's watching the news in the last 7 days, if Congress has my personal opinion, if Congress has the backbone to support Trump through this whole journey, it's going to be a very interesting economy in the next 2 years. And so, what does that mean for business and the forecast of this plan? I don't think anybody can say within a certain degree of accuracy that that's going to be right until we know what's going to happen with tariffs.
Chairman, I can tell you today, we received a call from a company that has slowed down their project because of that situation.
Exactly.
Just happened.
But on the flip side, if the plan works, how many more companies are coming back to the United States to open operations, which is an opportunity.
If we have the workforce.
And have the ability through some of these efforts to get to those companies to show our regional brand and the assets and the amenities we have to offer.
I was watching a documentary last night from the Franklin Roosevelt presidency on the new normal, or the new deal.
The New Deal.
Is what Franklin Roosevelt titled it, and Johnson over some great program that Congress pushed back on both, couldn't make a change. And then under the Clinton administration, Congress, Contract with America, remember those debates, the American public stood up and said, no, we're going to make sure we're entitlements and all the programs that federal government funds stay real. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out with Congress and the president and what this means for our economy. COVID wasn't normal. I don't think we're in a normal period now based on the drastic decisions that have been made, so we'll see. The Great Society, yes, thank you. Commissioner Breitling.
Having supported this motion when it started, I would move that we authorize our staff to transfer the amount that you set forth.
Is there a second?
Can we clarify the amount?
$581,900.
Motion and second agree with that amount, right?
Yes.
So, and that recognizes, just to clarify for the minutes, the prior 1.2 million added to the 581.9 is our annual commitment moving forward. And that if the cities of Fargo and West Fargo next year decide not to provide funding, that the commission will reflect that in its dollar for dollar match going into the 26 year. Questions? This is a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
It's-
Yeah, we might
Great
add,
work.
there were a couple of closing comments we wanted to make. One, a sincere thank you for the foresight, the courage, and the leadership that the commissioner, that all of you on the commission shared when you thought of this and worked with us alongside the private sector to do this work. We will be doing and have already done one investor briefing. It's very important that we stay in front of our investors on the work that we're doing. So that will happen twice a year, of which all of you have and will receive invitations to those investor briefings. But we'd also encourage that if there is anything else you want to see from a metrics or a reporting stand back to you, maybe they could message that back to you, Commissioner, and you could get that to us with additional pieces.
Yeah, this closes out our efforts to date, but then you'll be back in July. And we'll, you'll have more information then, so we'll continue to be a partner in this, but it's time to move forward. Declare a victory,
Thank you.
at least at the county commission. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling? Yes. Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, Fargo Tax Increment Financing Application for Lennon Lofts. Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I'm here, and maybe this is more for some of your newer members, there's a requirement from the state of North Dakota that anytime the city of Fargo provides a property tax incentive to a business or a project that exceeds 5 years, both the county and the school district have the ability to opt out of that property tax exemption. This particular one's a little more complicated because it's kind of a dual exemption. There's the first 5 years in the Renaissance zone, and there's really nothing that allows the county to opt out of that one. But certainly because this goes beyond 5 years, for an additional 5 years, the county would have the option to opt out of that second 5 year exemption. So that's the process. That's why I'm here. There's another one I'll be bringing to you in 2 weeks. That's more of a traditional, beyond 5 year exemption. So this project, it's called Lennon Lofts. Let's see if I can get this to work.
Use the mouse maybe to scroll.
I don't know if they can get this to move forward, but what we're talking about is there's here the location here is northwest of the downtown along 6th Avenue. This is our long-term downtown in focus plan. The future land use plan for this site is residential, so it does fit with that plan. The property is currently vacant. There's, I believe, a duplex in that red building and a sixplex in the tan building. Both these buildings would be demolished and replaced with a 22-unit apartment building. This is again, they're both vacant, boarded up. This sixplex, you can see in the upper right corner, there was a fire in this building 5 years ago. It has sat vacant since then. The owner at the time sold the property to another developer. That developer did not proceed with the development, and our current developer has the option to acquire both of these properties if he can make all the financing work. And this is the front of the building. I think it's almost 100 years old, and you can see here in the corner the apartment building on the upper floor was substantially damaged. I remember in a news story, I think someone had to jump out a window to get out of this place and was injured. It would be replaced by this building. There would be main floor parking, and there would be 22 apartments, mostly, I believe, 1 and 2 bedrooms. So the city's motivation and policy for this is to really clear out this blight and get something new in here. The other factor we look at is kind of what's the return on investment. We look at anytime someone's getting an exemption or a tax exemption beyond 5 years, we send this to our financial advisor and they do a but-for test. What's the rate of return if we don't help? What's the rate of return if we do help? Without assistance, the rate of return is 6.49%, and most investors won't get into a project unless it's at least in that 10 to 15% rate. With assistance, this gets to about a 10.9% rate of return. The other thing they look at is the coverage ratio. Generally, you want to get to about a 1.2, by year 5. This is just 1.01. Again, trying to go to a bank when you have very, very little coverage above 1 makes it difficult to finance. With the assistance, it would be about 1.25. The other factor that our tax exempt review committee looks at is what's the property taxes now? What would they be in the future? So right now, in 2025, this property will pay about $2,300 in property taxes. In the county share, that would be about $341. At the end of this, after the project is completed, there would be a total of about $42,000. with the county receiving about $6,400 in property taxes. I know we're concerned like you are, and you have a higher percentage in property taxes supporting you, and the city is too, and so that's why as we see these exemptions expire, that sort of adds to your base, and so in the long run, every year we're seeing TIFs in and property tax exemptions in. Those would be a positive. The other thing about this infill development is it's really a goal of our new comprehensive plan that we try to do more development on the infill. If you look at this property, we're already taking care of the streets and fire departments nearby. If this project's built on the edge, we'd have, have to put in new streets, new infrastructure. And I think that could be one of the unintended consequences of the property tax caps is that cities would be really discouraged from adding any new streets because you don't get any new revenue from a new street. And so you'd be really, if you can't get any more snowplow drivers, why would you add streets? And so I think that may kind of put a damper on some residential growth to have the city more cautious whether or not, new streets are really going to be appropriate in the future when your property taxes are capped. Sometimes people ask me, why do we need more apartments? Well, if you look at Cass County population projections came out a few weeks ago, the estimate was that the county grew by 2,700 people between 2023 and 2024, 7 people a day. And so there are more people moving here, more housing is needed, and that's why the developers are responding to this. I'll have Andrew Hansen come up now. He's a developer, and he can tell you why he feels this would be a good project. And then this is the request in motion to participate in the TIF district. The city has voted 5-0 to participate. The school district approved their participation, and we ask that you join in the participation of this exemption.
Questions for Mr. Gilmore?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Captain?
What is the vacancy rate on apartments today, do you know?
I think the last report I saw in September was between 5 to 6%, which is kind of a healthy rate. It's probably adequate enough for property owners, and it's still good for renters if there's some competition. What we're seeing is we've seen kind of a decline in the number of apartments being built because of construction costs, interest rates especially. And so when you're adding another 7 people a day and you don't have housing, that vacancy rate has probably declined since then.
Mr. Flacco?
You said it was northwest of the downtown. I would consider it northeast.
Northeast, I'm sorry.
Okay. Because I know those houses, so.
Yeah.
I used to own the one across the street from there.
This is Andrew Hansen with Lennon Lofts.
Hello, thank you, County Commissioners. My name is Andrew Hansen. I'm the managing member for Lennon Lofts. I'm here to tell you a little bit more about this new project we have. Currently, there sits 2 blighted structures, like what Jim was saying, burned up 6-plex and a boarded up duplex. And I believe that they've been vacant for 4+ years.
5.
5, there you go, 5 years. Plus, they're each over 120 years old. So we would like to redevelop the site into a 22-unit residential apartment building with 21 enclosed parking spots on the first floor. The unit mix, like Jim said, was going to be 16 ones and 6 twos. They're designed in a way to maximize density on a small footprint. Our goal is to appeal to the target market of mid-range renters and supply housing for people who desire to work, live, and play in downtown Fargo. But we do have some concerns. We have some headwinds. I think recently we've seen it here in the last week. Interest rates are staying higher for longer. Insurance costs. We started this, putting together this pro forma over a year ago, and things have changed. Insurance has gone up. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but number of our properties have doubled, and some of them have tripled the cost of insurance. Utilities are going up, and then we have the looming tariffs and the impacts they're going to have on construction costs. And more importantly, the economy, and see how that goes. This project won't happen without your guys' support, so I'm here to ask for your approval for, on the commission side. But also, thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Capitan?
How does something like this now affect our 3% cap?
Well, I can give you one opinion. And of course, there could be less an opinion and an expert opinion, like Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, it will be an exempted property, so we wouldn't be receiving the taxes on this. Therefore, there would be no 3% growth on it once it came back into play. However many years later, then it would be added, and then there would be 3% on top of that.
I had another question there, but I forgot it, so I'll pass.
Let me give you my opinion and then see where this commission wants to go on this. As Mr. Gilmore knows, knowing that we were faced with 3% cap earlier this session in January, I put out just a feeler on, if 3% cap comes to be, what should the policy of the Cass County Commission be as far as TIFs and incentives, knowing that we're foregoing tax collection. We're not giving up tax collection. We're foregoing tax collection. What does that look like for us as a commission? It looks like we're going to end up with 3%. So I think really the decision that the commission is ultimately going to have to make, and certainly not suggesting we make that here today, this is a project we have to decide on, is what's our new policy moving forward that balances our desire to assist our partner in City of Fargo in this case for growth in its downtown redevelopment code, West Fargo, other parts of Cass County, as well as being fiscally responsible on tax collections as we look to future budgets. I don't know what that silver bullet answer is at this point, but I'm very cognizant of the financial responsibility we have, and also sensitive to what our employees think about if we're telling them to cut. And that could be something that we, as we go through 26 budget, 27, is that a fair thing to ask our employees to do when we're on the other side foregoing some tax collections? Those are questions I think we need to resolve moving forward, but that's just my opinion at this point. Commissioner Flacco.
Yeah, I mean, the session is a ways from done, but it seems like the 3% is starting to bake in a little bit. We won't know till the end of the session, so, it hasn't happened yet, so I'm a little more optimistic with some of these projects, shall we say. Is that a way to say that? But, come budgeting process time for us, at least for me personally, the vote will be measurably harder to get at a high level. I think from my perspective, the years of 15 years and some of these is in the rearview mirror. And, I mean, with all, none of us commissioners will be here by the time this will run out, whether it's 11 or 15 years, so when you start thinking of it in those contexts, it kind of makes you worry a little bit, ensuring that we are doing the right things for all the citizens and, being fair across the board. So that's kind of where we're struggling. But we're in a different environment now a little bit than I think we are coming to the end of the session and coming into July. So it's a little different for me, but that 3% is just looming, or the cap at whatever level that we know they're going to have one, is looming very large in what we can do. I mean, from my perspective, we're opening 192 beds in the jail pod, with a jail pod. That's a high priority, for me. So, those kind of things to ensure, what are our base obligations, public safety, roads, bridges, some of those things. So it kind of caterwauls a little bit in terms of trying to figure out how we can accomplish, working with blighted facilities in this case, and, making sure we have enough groceries to take and spread it around for everything else that we need to do.
I think, I see one of the challenges that the city has too, you don't know for sure, would this happen anyway? Because if it would happen anyway, then you're foregoing revenue. If it doesn't happen, you're not foregoing anything because you still don't have the revenue. So are you simply giving away 100% of what you don't have that you'll get later? Or are you actually, foregoing something in the short term? And I know there's been one project I can think of where you didn't participate and the project got built anyway. Another project you didn't participate and it's still downtown, it's a vacant lot, and you're getting much less than you used to. So it's really I understand it's a tough call for you, it's a tough call for the city. This particular one, that's why we bring in our financial advisor and look and say, are they gonna do this anyway? Could we cut this down to 7 years if that was adequate? Those are the kind of questions we look at. So we only want to incent projects that would not happen otherwise. I think this fits that category.
Commissioner Breitling, then Commissioner Bell.
In the past, it's not been a policy, but we've had a practice where we've approved less than what the city of Fargo does. I mention that just for some of you who weren't around during those previous considerations. There's another subject on the property on the agenda. I'm not sure whether that's going to go forward or not today.
That one, the motion is you've always wanted to wait and see what the city does first. And so Mr. Wilson has crafted a motion to simply delay that because the state law, you only have 30 days, kind of a 30-day shot clock. And if we don't hear from you, then you've decided to participate.
Commissioner Bell?
I guess, my point is, and I agree with all the issues involving when we're talking about incentives, but I think the bottom line is we look at these particular buildings, they're an eyesore, they're a danger to our community, they're a detriment to the growth within those areas. Obviously, other people have tried to do some level of building in the past, it's failed. If we feel this strongly is going to be a project that's going to go through, I would support this, but I agree. I think we have to be very careful moving forward with all these incentives. And I think it's only smart that we have conversations about them, but in this particular case, and I think it has to come down case by case, what is the right things for the community? And I think looking at this project in this area and these buildings specifically, it's the right thing to do to support this project.
Commissioner Capitan?
I have one question that on this 3%, and I'm convinced that it's going to be 3%, because I had about an hour and a half chat with Senator Weber yesterday on his way back to Bismarck. He called and responding to a text that I sent him. And he's chair of Tax and Finance Committee, and at first he said and I don't recall him being in favor of the consumer price index, because from what I heard, he was flat with the governor on 3%. Does that include the future growth, or is that just a flat 3% and no future growth, no consumer price index?
As far as I understand, and looking at Brandy, we get 3% cap and new growth
And new growth.
from the year prior.
I believe you also get expired exemptions in addition to the new
Yeah,
growth.
well, yeah, that would be, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So you're suggesting we go and waive all exemptions so they're immediate? Is that what I heard you say? Oh, never mind, sorry. What are your wishes? Commissioner Breitling?
I'm going to move to not participate in the request, but to negotiate with the property owner. And if we can't successfully negotiate another figure, then it would be rejected.
That we've done that in the past, I understand.
Yes, we have.
Looking at Mr. Wilson. Okay, is there a second?
For purpose of discussion, I'll second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Mr. Wilson, any comments?
Certainly, the commission can choose to participate at whatever level you choose. In the past, obviously, the most common would be to participate or not participate as requested. But you certainly have had some times where there've been some unique participation agreements that were different from the referring entity.
I think I can recall somewhere they've asked for 15 years and you said, we'll go 10. And the county has to keep track of that.
Yeah, I think this has been good discussion. I think the motion, at least as I understand it, is a good next step. I mean, what we're trying to achieve here is, a balance of the new normal. Again, use those words, the new normal we're going to be operating in, and be fair and appropriate. And as I think Mr. Gilmer reminds me now and then that of the tax exemption, we're 18% of that. So from a dollar standpoint, you had your one slide up, it was,
I think you're 15, but
I think you said 18%. Oh, we went smaller then, so. But the whole point is, it's a philosophical view of what's the right decision moving forward, being stewards of the tax dollars. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Flacco?
Mr. Gilmore, what's the step down by years again? Can you,
this one,
that the city is looking at?
this one is not a step down, and actually the Roars one too, we were looking at a step down on that one. I'll talk about that in 2 weeks. We're looking at more of an 11-year versus a 15-year step down.
So this one is a,
This one would be 10 years, first 5 at Renaissance Zone, they would get regardless. The next 5 would be a TIF exemption that would exempt the buildings, but not the land,
okay.
or not the current value, excuse me.
So what's, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Gilmore, what's an out of Fargo or West Fargo equivalent of what we're doing? Is there, what happens in Arthur? Because, I mean, we have a bigger pot of sort, from
Yeah.
different demographic, urban, rural, city, ag. Is there a similar one as you see it that we do for other political subdivisions?
I believe the only other ones that have approached you, I don't know, I think Castleton had approached you on the soybean crushing plant. I believe you participated in that one. I forget how many years you participated in that. West Fargo's had numerous ones. In some cases, you've participated in non-primary sector office buildings or housing projects. In Fargo, it's been either primary sector, low-income housing, or redevelopment. Those are sort of our 3 focus areas.
Commissioner Capitan?
When you brought up the soybean plant, I noticed that, if I remember right, that was 15 or 20 years. And they said if we didn't go with them, they were gonna go to Richland County. Well, we went with them, but after, and I fact checked afterwards, Richland County wasn't even in the mix. That was just kind of an anchor they held over our heads, saying, oh, no, we'll go to Richland County and build it there then. No, that was not even in the cards. But we should come to, we have the soybean plant now.
Other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, just,
Commissioner
I
Flacco?
want to try to help out, but for me, it's, boy, do we get feedback on this topic. You go to the coffee shop, but, it's fewer years than 15 or 11 or whatever. And, I'm more in the camp of, not 100% right out of the chute type thing. Maybe it's, somewhat of a lesser number, whether it's 75 and I don't necessarily, I see shorter and maybe not even a step down, or whatever you would prefer to call it, so.
I mean, if there is a motion to negotiate, I would suggest that maybe a couple of you could negotiate with, Mr. Hanson and see if you could come to something and where his project can still work. the city.
Typical customer in the past will delegate Mr. Wilson to do that, unless the commissioner wants to be involved. I would add that once the legislature adjourns, that we maybe have a task force of a subset of a couple commissioners in the city of Fargo and West Fargo to have a common understanding of what our new normal looks like and see if there's kind of a common ground there from a practice or a policy moving forward. But I'll rely on Mr. Wilson to work with you, which he's done in the past. I think the feedback here has been really good. I mean, it sets the stage for what's to come, I guess, in the future as we make decisions. And as I said earlier, this economic condition we started here in the last week, let's hope that it doesn't continue for months. Let's hope that it's resolved soon so that certainty goes back into the marketplace. And that's also aided the city of Fargo and developers to have predictability. And likewise with a policy or a practice this commission has, to have some predictability of what we think is our consensus on how we should view these in the future.
I would welcome that. We have not had that in the past.
Remember when I was elected to the county commission, we tried that and it kind of imploded. So it was over a water park. Okay, any other questions?
I'll volunteer to work with Mr. Wilson on this part of the building committee.
Any other comments, questions? Take the roll.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Caputan? Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye. Look for a motion to table item 3. Is that the correct terminology for a future meeting?
So,
Continue to use
Continue?
please use the continue to negotiate
Well, that was item 2.
Yeah, on the,
On item 3, we're not acting because the city of Fargo is not acting. What's the motion on that?
right, but with that, the state statute and the 30-day response requirement.
If you don't respond by Friday, you've approved it. And so
We
what
need to
Mr.
continue
Wilson's
to-
suggesting is you initiate
Chairman,
negotiations.
I'm looking for a motion to do exactly that.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we do not approve it to allow the city of Fargo to negotiate further.
Commissioner Breitling, seconds.
Second.
Hearing no comments. Take the roll.
Commissioner Caputan?
Aye.
Commissioner Vettel?
aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
By my account, number 5, conditional liquor license application for Northdale Liquors.
That is me. I'm just scrolling forward on my agenda packet. Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, you will recall a couple of meetings ago, you approved a license application for a conditional alcoholic beverage license. And that was really the result of a specific set of circumstances that had come to my office in the county. And this was identified as the process that would meet this particular applicant's needs to the greatest extent the county could, as they are in the process of continuing a process to construct a building or look at their future outlook and their process moving forward. So as soon as that application was approved, they very promptly forwarded me the information that they had prepared. We shared that with the sheriff's office. The background checks were completed. They have submitted the payment for the license, have verified that all taxes are paid and up to date, and they have met all conditions for this conditional alcoholic beverage license application as it's laid out. They asked for consideration. I've worked with Dean Holland in the sheriff's office. He has reviewed the application and has returned it to me with no concerns, and this application is here for your consideration this afternoon.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none. Taylor, when you're ready, take the roll.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Caputan? Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Item 6, beer and wine liquor license application for Viking Vines.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, timing is a coincidental thing occasionally. And as we were moving through some of our processes and the verification and checking on the previous item that you just acted on, had the applicant bring this application forward. As I understand it, this is a purchase transaction of a existing business from a previous owner to a new owner. The actual real estate transaction took a little longer than anticipated. A license lapsed, and so rather than being able to do a direct transfer, need a new application to be considered in this case. Again, once we received all the information, forwarded it over to Dean Holland with the sheriff's office. They ran through their process. Everything came back in order in quick order. And from the sheriff's office standpoint, there's no reason not for the commission not to proceed with this. And at that point, I'd stand for any questions or look for your action.
Questions? Motion?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Vettel,
Second.
second by Commissioner Breitling. Discussion? Hearing none. Taylor?
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel,
Aye.
Commissioner Gridberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan, Commissioner Flacco.
Aye.
Highway budget adjustment, item 7.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I'd like to bring forward the budget adjustment and project and contract documents with KLJ Engineering for the bridge design of the County 31 bridge. As you know, this bridge was closed last summer due to accelerated bridge movement, and the county has begun an accelerated process to try to get the structure replaced as soon as possible due to its importance and long detour. Preliminary design and soil testing have begun to get a better idea and understanding of ways to move forward. And this kind of brings us to where we're at now, where we felt it was necessary to go through the RFP process to make sure we make the right decision on who to hire as the designer for this project. And 3 consultants prepared proposals, and they were all interviewed. Each consultant was presented with past experience, knowledge of the existing structure, and knowledge of possible similar structures that they've done and grant possibilities. All consultants interviewed well. However, KLJ showed the most experience with grant achieving grants. Where the last biennium with flex funds, they actually were awarded over 60% of the grants that were awarded. They were a part of. So they're very good with that. And we also brought this forward to the Road Advisory Committee, and that was approved at that committee as well to move forward with KLJ Engineering. The cost to complete this work is just over $1 million. So that is a very large dollar amount for a bridge design. But this is our largest bridge in Cass County, not going over the Red River. And that cost kind of almost is, designing almost 2 structures where you have the one on the existing alignment and you have a proposed alignment alternative. So they kind of have to look at 2 different routes to see, what makes the most sense. And, that cost could get brought down significantly if the tests come back and say, hey, existing alignment will work if you do this, this, and this. Then we can just move away with the alternative alignments. We can just stay on the original alignment, and that should cut our cost of this agreement down slightly. So, we are also asking, for a budget adjustment on this, as part of this agenda item. You know, we were aware of the bridge, before, the 2025 budget was approved. However, we didn't know all the information that we needed to know, so we did carry over additional dollars in 25 because of the unknowns of what this bridge is going to cost. So usually we carry over 10%, and in 25 budget we had a 35% carryover, and so in dollar amount, you know, that's about 5.7 million in carryover. And we had our project come in about $2.3 million less. So we're sitting with about $8 million that we necessarily didn't have in our budget, but we kind of had in our budget to just make sure we had the funds available for contracts like this and or the possibility of construction starting in 25. So if you have any questions.
So clarify for me, Kyle, the budget adjustment, if we have funding in our budget, you lost me there on the adjustment side.
So we have the funds, but they're just not broken out in the budget. So we had proposed carrying over an extra 35% due to the fact that this is going to be a large bridge, and we wanted to make sure we had the available funds to do it.
Okay, so we're
assuming
taking a portion of that.
Right, so I just want to put that remainder balance into a line item for 2025.
Questions for Kyle? Mr. Wilson?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Chair, Kyle, just a quick question for you, and looking at the first paragraph of your memo here, this may be a little premature to ask this question, but you say preliminary design and soil testing has begun. I know in the run-up to this, there was some discussion of, depending on how those tests come back, it could be something close to a standard bridge design, or depending on how bad the soil types were, it could be something that is quite extensive and unique. Is it too early to get any kind of a reading of what those tests are revealing?
So I think the simple plain Jane method is kind of out the window. Now it's more so the more robust bridges that move with the movement of the soil underneath it. Is that enough to handle the movement that's happening? We're to the point where it's either yes, that will work, or no, it won't work. And if you want it to work, it's going to be high dollar amount. So instead of simple versus robust, now we're kind of looking at robust versus no build type of situation.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
How long is this estimated project?
So right now, we have all the soil meters in the ground, waiting for the thaw so we can start getting readings. We're hoping to get readings June, July timeframe, and that'll get us started on the existing alignment and have a better idea of what's actually happening there. They know it's moving, they just don't know how fast and how much and how the angles of the fracture underground. So if everything works out to build the bridge on the existing alignment, we're looking at roughly a June 2026 bid date, with completion of the bridge fall to end of 2027.
Okay. Added to that then, if we approve this motion and a budget adjustment of $1,091,000, how long is that scope of work?
So I would assume that would be 90% of that would happen before June of next year. And then the remainder 10% would also kind of handle anything through the bidding, the shop drawing review, getting load ratings and everything else needed to complete the project.
So then if I heard you correctly, you would know by July what options might
correct.
dictate.
By July, we would have a much better idea of whether or not we're going to be spending $1,091,000 or less, or if that'll be, because if they get the answers they want from the dirt and they can go on a design, so the problem is the alternative alignment, they have to wait a full 6 months to make sure it's not moving. Whereas we already know the existing alignment is moving, we just don't know how fast and how much. So if they can get, so basically they can get the numbers they want to on the existing alignment and they can hit the ground running, I think we'll spend about 60% of this in the 25 calendar and the remainder. Whereas if we have to wait, because we don't like the numbers, it might be 40% and then 60% in 26.
I just had a comment I want to call on Commissioner Flacco. As far as the motion goes, I think it would be assumed that when you come before us for your budget for 26 in July, that we have an update of the status of this project, but maybe the motion reflects that there'll be a July update on what you found out and which options are going to, and that would obviously parlay into the budget discussion.
Right.
But I just think it's important that the commission knows what happens by early July.
We'll have a much better idea at that point.
Commissioner Flacco.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a budget adjustment of $1,091,000 to the engineering budget line item 211-4001-401-33.01 for the above mentioned project and authorize chairperson to sign contracts with KLJ Engineering LLC for the primary purpose and design engineering for the bridge and stated above subject to state's attorney's approval with the understanding that the engineering department would come for us in July with an update during our budgeting process.
Commissioner Capitan?
I'll second the motion, but I have a question. Being a non-civil engineer, would it, the road that this bridge is on is well-traveled?
Yes.
So, have they looked into going back further from where the slopes are to do it, and then, put pilings down or whatever into the bedrock, and then do a clear span bridge?
It is
Or
a
that even possible?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, the ultimate, hold to that is making sure that your low beam member, so the lowest part of the bridge underneath the bridge is out of the water during a 100-year event. So if you wanted to single span it, you would need like a 10-foot high beam to do that. And to do that, then your road would have to go up an additional 10 feet. And then to make that all work, you'd have to go back probably a mile each way to go up. I mean, to get up and then surcharging and all this other fun stuff that goes along with that.
I was thinking maybe a quarter of a mile, but not.
Further questions? Hearing none, we'll have Taylor take the roll.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 8, approve Freeman subdivision application. Cole Hanson.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, so just to start off with, this is an item that typically would not come as a regular agenda item. This would typically be a consent agenda item. However, just due to the slightly unique nature of it and the fact that we do have new commissioners, I opted to put this on regular agenda as this does include a change in the minimal and limited disturbance zones along the Wild Rice River as part of this project. So basically, this plat, when it first came in, using those minimal and limited disturbance zones for a total of 450 feet of no building, blocks off approximately half of this entire parcel from construction. As part of the process, as allowed under our subdivision ordinance, the applicant did request for a MDZ LDZ modification. I did confer with the state's attorney's office, and Kate helped me out with the interpretation of that. And so our understanding is that when we modify the MDZ and LDZ, the MDZ, the 350 feet from center line of river, is the one that moves. The LDZ will always be 100 feet off of that. That is reflected on the plat as two different building control lines, basically stating that from the high bank of the Wild Rice River in this location, back 100 feet, they can only build at most a 10 by 10 shed effectively. Outside of that, though, this is a completely normal subdivision. It has the necessary deed restriction and was approved unanimously by Planning Commission.
Questions for Cole?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Wilson?
Just a quick comment. I know Chair Grinberg had a couple of additional questions for you on this when we were going through our agenda review meeting last week. I had to step out for a portion of that conversation, and reading through the application again at the end of last week, called Cole this morning to, I think, go over much of what you had asked him. And I just appreciate the expertise and the ability to explain that in plain language of why you were presenting it to the board in the fashion that you did. That's all.
And I will add to that as well. Most of those questions were involving the K and B parcel just to the north of this, that quite literally across from Highway 16, that did revolve around the MDZ, LDZ building control lines, which were confirmed by the Supreme Court. So.
And upon the agenda review, that's what triggered my memory, is like, wait a minute, we're gonna have an application here when we're in court across the road, and just wanted to make sure it was all.
The applicant on this one had the bad luck of being right across the street from that. And so because of that the process that they've been following has been scrutinized quite heavily by both us and the state's attorney's office to ensure that we're following it to the letter, as well as taking much longer than a standard subdivision due to that increased scrutiny.
And if you want to go a little deeper dive, the reason I remembered that, because I got an earful from the property owner on the north side while I was running for county commission, so it still stays with me, that conversation. Thank you, Cole. Any other questions? Here now we'll have Taylor take the roll.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan? Aye. Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel?
Aye.
Commissioner Flacco?
Aye.
The item we moved from consent, approved contracts, Brown Intertech Corporation for construction materials testing, Central Specialties, Inc. for asphalt patching contract, and various vector control contract for mosquitoes. I think the mosquito was the one we wanted to talk about.
Right.
Everyone's
The various.
We're gonna have
entities.
mosquitoes this year?
We'll see. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Only on North Fargo. There's no mosquitoes in South Fargo.
South Fargo, West Fargo, they're usually, everywhere. So I'm mostly here for questions, but I did want to read a little bit here that we do get about a different, kind of a hybridized style of our revenues. 65% are from our mill levy, which is 0.85, and the 35 other percent of that is actually from the contracts that are in question. So these agreements actually date back as far as 2003. So Bruce Furness, Dennis Wallaker, those folks had worked on a lot of those discussions. And over time, we've added to that. Various cities have come on board, City of West Fargo, City of Horace, and now we're partnering with the City of Riley's Acres and so forth, trying to be equitable in what our control program is as far as metropolitan residents are concerned.
The finances are what struck me at the meeting this morning with the Highway Patrol, Highway Department. The income, as I roughed it out for 24, is almost $600,000. And I think those types of contractual agreements should appear on our regular agenda rather than a consent agenda. And that's the only reason we're here. There is one interesting thing in the email that you provided me, is that for a few years now, you've made an annual adjustment to each of the costs based on a recommendation from the prior chair of this commission, Mr. Peterson.
And that is specifically to their City of Moorhead contract as far as an administrative fee and what we're doing across the river there, which is a very unique first in the nation, only in the nation kind of situation. So the rest of our entities, the City of Fargo, City of West Fargo, as they grow, we've been evaluating what those needs are.
There is a formula based on per units within a municipality
Yeah, so for like this,
to generate the fee.
so we look at that kind of formula of the $12 per household per year. And that's what we look at when we're negotiating with the city of Horace, the cities of Riley's Acres, and kind of evaluating that. Of course, the city of Horace has increased dramatically in terms of the past few years, and it's kind of a tick-tock where we let them catch their breath, and then introduce a new contract after a number of years, reflecting those additional housing units.
Other questions?
I would move to approve and authorize the contractual agreements set forth by this department.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Vettel. Discussion? Hearing none, will Taylor take the roll?
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel,
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan, Commissioner Flacco.
Thank you.
Item 9, thank you.
I
Item
think
9.
we might need a motion to approve the other contracts, right? Because we took all the contracts off the, you know what I mean?
Would somebody like to make that motion?
I thought we had moved to approve the rest in that J category, other than the vector control stuff.
Is that the intent?
I'll clarify.
Minute?
Okay.
Okay. Vouchers, Number 9, Commissioner Flacco.
Mr. Chairman, I've thoroughly examined these, and for the note, that includes vector pesticide expenditures, which will be happy because I hear it's going to rain a lot early May and 3 times the amount maybe in portions of June, so we're going to need that. But they're off and rolling already. But I would move to approve the payment registrar 348911 through 349168.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I just want to know where Commissioner Flacco's getting his weather information.
That would be from my friend meteorologist over at WDAY Radio.
Thank you.
You heard it here. Take the roll, please, Taylor.
Commissioner Flacco,
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Vettel,
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan.
Committee reports, State's Attorney.
We are on the hunt again for another prosecutor to replace Robert Valley, who I'll be very, very sad to see go. He's been a great member of our team for quite a while. So if you know people who are interested in prosecuting, please send their applications my way.
Commissioner Capitan.
The only thing I have to report, and then a question, the report is that I attended the township spring annual meeting in Castleton, about last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Week and a half ago.
somewhere in that area. And Commissioner Flacco was there, and Mr. Wilson and Tracy came speedily from Bismarck to attend. But that, and then my question is, on the consent agenda, appoint a member to Cass County Planning Commission, who did we appoint? Or is that, are we still looking at that?
That is, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Capitan, that is an application that we received to join the Cass County Planning Commission. If you give me just a moment, I'll bring up the individual's name.
We appointed Daniel Hamry, and he replaced Hugh because Hugh resigned a couple months ago.
Okay, very good. Sounds good to me.
Who is you?
Beat.
Invite. Your friend and mine.
Commissioner Flacco.
Just a couple little bit of kudos, we'll call them. Congratulations to Chairman Grinberg, who Minnesota State University Moorhead named as a distinguished alum since we met last, and there was a nice event to honor him. And as you may know, the NDSU football team, the national champions, are going to be at the White House day from this Wednesday. At the last I heard from Holben, they'll be there scheduled at 5 p.m. So always Wednesday. So always kind of fun to give the college students new experiences and expose them to a variety of different things. No word that I've heard on what they may or may not be eating while they're there.
Finance,
No report, thank you.
Commissioner Vettel? Nothing. Commissioner Breitling?
Nothing further.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Flacco stole a third of my thunder. It was a privilege to be able to join you, Mr. Chair, at the Dragon Legacy Award winners luncheon. It was very nice, and congratulations. I would also just say that Tracy Peters and I have been helping out the Equalization Office with township and city equalization hearings over the last week, and will continue to do so through April, just helping them kind of bridge that gap until the new director comes on board at the end of the month. And then I may be asking for some input from commissioners after the meeting. Commissioner Flacco shared, I think, an interesting suggestion of doing a little more formal portrait of commissioners sitting up here at the dais. And I think, something that we can always do to sort of spice up the visual impact of the website and the connection that we have with the community. Feel free to give me your input here or after the fact, or individually after the meeting. But I think new ideas and perspectives and maybe mixing up some of those images that you have on the website is never a bad thing to consider. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Thanks for the shout out on the award. I won't belabor the stories I shared with my days back in college, but I just close with appreciate Robert and Tracy meeting with the staff. As we close out this legislative session, one of the things that I shared with them as we start our budget process in July, actually starts earlier because department heads start planning before that, is that the message be sent that first and foremost, we're going to take care of our people at the county. And there will be no layoffs as a result. If there's any rumors, I wanted to make sure that record was set straight. And then some of the things that we'll work through as far as budget directives coming from in May, I believe it is. So the feedback that you've shared with me was well received, and we'll figure this out. But I think it's important that we recognize the important work that the team is doing for the county, and that's recognized here as well. So with that, any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Motion to adjourn? So moved. Moved and seconded. Commissioner Capitan.
I'd like to congratulate Taylor on coming back to work. Greatly appreciated.
If you want to see the little ones, right now, she's right down here. Is she right? No, never mind. We're adjourned.